Welcome to the Music Fix, your one-stop shop for all things music. In this podcast, we dive deep into the latest news, trends, and releases shaping the music industry. From chart-topping hits to underground gems, we've got you covered.
All right, let's jump right in. We've got a ton of fascinating stuff to dig into today about Veritas and Luman Media. Seriously, you guys sent over everything, the owner's LinkedIn, company websites, details about partners. It's amazing. So today, we're going to try to piece it all together and figure out who's running this company, what they're up to, and maybe even predict where they're headed next.
Yeah, the first thing that really jumps out at me is just how broadly they're involved in media. I mean, it's not just one thing. They've got their hands in so many different areas.
So maybe a good place to start is with the person at the top. We got Opie Boyd's LinkedIn profile, right? He's the founder and CEO. And it's really interesting. It doesn't seem like he's setting up Veritas and Luman to be your typical investor.
Yeah, you're right. He really emphasizes the strategic partnership angle. It feels like they're committed to actively helping these media businesses grow, not just throwing money at them. They're offering support solutions, kind of tailored to each company's needs.
And I noticed a few cases where companies are actually giving Veritas and Luman ownership in exchange for their expertise. That's pretty unique, don't you think?
It is, yeah. It definitely points to a deeper level of commitment. They're not just looking for a quick return. They're in it for the long haul, building relationships. It's like they're creating this collaborative ecosystem, almost like a media empire, but built on partnership instead of just buying everything up.
Right. And that makes sense when you consider the sheer range of sectors they're involved in. I mean, their website lists everything. You got music, film, AI platforms, even gaming.
It's a lot.
It's a huge scope.
It is. And I think it shows that they recognize how interconnected the media landscape is becoming. They're not limiting themselves. They're embracing the convergence of technology, content, distribution.
Okay, so we've got this big picture of a company that's embedded in the media world through all these partnerships. But let's zoom in a bit. You mentioned that Veritas and Luman has a bunch of sub-companies. Can we talk about those?
Definitely. So there's Music Label Group, Publishing Label Group, MLG Music House, ProduBeats Music, and then Film Label Group. Each one kind of plays a specific role in their overall strategy.
Wow, that's a mouthful. Okay, so let's start with Music Label Group. What's their story?
Well, they're positioned as a major independent label, and what's really interesting is their partnership with Virgin Music Group, which is part of Universal Music Group. That gives them access to a global network and resources most indies can only dream of.
So they've got the backing of a major player, but they still operate independently.
Exactly. They offer the full range of label services, marketing, promotions, branding, licensing, you name it. So they have that indie flexibility, but with the power of a major label behind them.
Makes sense. It's a smart setup. All right, now what about ProduBeats Music? What do they focus on?
ProduBeats is all about empowering independent artists and labels. Their main thing is global music distribution, helping artists get their music out there. But what makes them unique is that they let labels become aggregators themselves.
Wait, hold on. Can you unpack that a little? What does that mean for a label to be an aggregator?
Sure. So traditionally, if you're an indie label, you might have to go through a bigger distributor to get on Spotify, Apple Music, those kinds of platforms. But ProduBeats flips that around. They let smaller labels basically become mini distributors, taking on other artists and getting their music out there.
So they're cutting out the middleman and giving more power to the little guys.
Yeah.
That's pretty disruptive.
It is, and they give these labels 85% of the earnings, so it's win-win. They're democratizing music distribution, giving indies more control.
I love that idea. It's like shaking things up. And you mentioned a partnership with Sound Royalties, right?
Yeah, they teamed up with Sound Royalties so artists can get advances on their earnings without giving up ownership of their copyrights.
That's huge in an industry known for those kinds of deals.
Yeah.
It fits with their whole mission of empowering artists, giving them more control.
Definitely.
All right, so we've covered two of the music-focused companies. Let's talk about Publishing Label Group. What's their specialty?
They're the behind-the-scenes folks, focusing on music for film, TV, commercials, all that. They work with songwriters, composers, sync resources to make music for specific needs.
So they're the ones making sure our favorite shows have great soundtracks.
Exactly. And like Music Label Group, they've got a big partnership, this time with Universal Music Publishing Group. That global reach means they can collect royalties for their artists worldwide.
So they're handling everything, creation, distribution, making sure artists get paid, Really impressive.
It speaks to Veritas and Lumen's dedication to building a system that really works for creators.
Okay, so we talked about music label group, Produ Beats, and publishing label group. Now, what about MLG Music House and film label group? We're running out of time for this part, but I'm really curious about those two.
Let's save them for part 2. They deserve their own deep dive, and believe me, you won't want to miss it.
You've got me hooked. We'll be back in a moment to keep exploring Veritas and Luman Media. Don't go anywhere. All right, we're back, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything we talked about in part 1. Veritas and Luman is doing so much more than I ever realized.
Oh yeah, we're just getting started. Remember those other sub-companies, MLG Music House and Film Label Group?
Yes. MLG Music House. What kind of music are we even talking about here?
So MLG Music House seems to be their dedicated production arm. They've got this network of producers creating music for all sorts of things, licensing for TV and film, video games. It's like their in-house team of music wizards ready to make the perfect sound for any project.
That's a smart move, having that creative power in-house. They don't have to go outside for music. They can just create exactly what they need when they need it.
Exactly. It helps them keep a consistent sound across all their projects, too. Now, Film Label Group, that's their film production side, as you might guess.
Okay, so they're making movies now. Are we talking blockbusters, or do they have a specific genre they're going for?
It's hard to say for sure without more info. But knowing how they like those strategic partnerships and their diverse interests, I wouldn't be surprised if they're doing a mix of things, different audiences, different platforms. They could even be collaborating with some of the other companies under Veritas and Lumen. Imagine a film scored by MLG Music House featuring songs from their music label group artists.
Wow, yeah. That cross-promotion potential is huge. It's like they could create this whole ecosystem where the film, the music, it all feeds into each other.
Right. It's a brilliant strategy. They can maximize their resources, create a more immersive experience for the audience, but remember, we're still just scratching the surface. Veritas and Lumen also has this whole suite of entertainment platforms they've created.
Right. We touched on those earlier. Can we dive into those now? I'm really curious about Starwrite AI. AI writing song lyrics, blog posts, even social media captions. It's kind of mind-blowing.
I know, right? Think of the potential for artists, writers, marketers. They could use Starwrite AI to generate content on a scale we've never seen before. It could free up their time to focus on the really creative parts of their work.
It almost sounds too good to be true. But what about the quality? Can AI-generated content really be as nuanced, as emotional, as original as something created by a human?
That's the big question, isn't it? AI is still pretty young when it comes to creative stuff. It can copy styles, write grammatically correct text, even make catchy tunes. But can it capture that spark of human inspiration, that emotional depth that makes art truly resonate?
It's a fascinating debate. Is AI a tool to enhance human creativity, or a threat to the very idea of what it means to be an artist?
It's something we'll be talking about for years to come, I think. But one thing's for sure, Starwrite AI is pushing the boundaries, making us confront these questions. And it's not just about creating content, they're also making a marketplace where users can buy and sell AI-generated content.
Wow, so they're building a whole economy around this tech. It's exciting, but also a little daunting to think about the implications. What do you think, what could be the impact of this?
Well, for one thing, it could democratize content creation. Anyone with access to this platform could become a content provider. Imagine aspiring writers, musicians, small businesses. They could produce high-quality content without hiring expensive professionals. It could disrupt the traditional models, create new opportunities for people who haven't had access before.
It's a pretty revolutionary concept.
Yeah.
But let's not get lost in the AI world just yet. We still have Music Links and efans.co to talk about.
Right. So Music Links, their focus is on changing how artists connect with fans online. It simplifies everything by bringing all of an artist's social media and streaming links into one place.
So instead of having to track down their website, their Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, you just go to one place and find it all. That sounds amazing for both artists and fans.
Exactly. It takes away all the frustration of clicking through a ton of links, makes it easier for fans to connect. And for artists, it's a great tool for building a loyal fan base.
I can see how that would be incredibly valuable. Now tell me about efans.co. What's their unique angle?
efans.co is all about empowering creators to make money through exclusivity. It's a platform where artists can offer premium content, behind-the-scenes stuff, even direct interaction with fans, all for a price.
So it's like a VIP experience for superfans. They get to directly support the artists they love and get unique perks in return.
You got it. It's a win-win. Fans get that exclusive access and a deeper connection, and artists get a new revenue stream. They can build a more engaged community.
Okay, so we've got the sub-companies, the entertainment platforms. What about that MLG Music CMS? What does that do?
That one's more behind the scenes. It stands for Content Management System. It's a tool they use internally for managing projects and content, especially within music label group. Think of it like the engine that keeps their music operations running smoothly.
Ah, okay, so it's like the central nervous system, keeping everything organized and efficient.
Exactly. It shows how important it is to have a solid foundation for their goals. But remember, this is all just the tip of the iceberg. We've explored the different parts of Veritas and Luman Media. But the real question is, what does it all mean? Where are they headed?
That's the million-dollar question. What do you think? Where does Veritas and Luman fit into the bigger media landscape? And what does the future hold for them?
Well, that's what we'll explore in part 3. We'll look at the bigger picture, talk about the challenges and opportunities, and leave you with some thought-provoking questions to ponder.
Sounds fascinating. We'll be right back after a quick break to delve into the future of Veritas and Luman Media. All right, we're back, ready to tackle the big question. Where is Veritas and Luman Media headed? We've gone through their partnerships, their sub-companies, their platforms. It's impressive.
It really is. And I think the most interesting part is they're right at the intersection of some massive trends that are shaping media right now. AI-driven content, direct-to-fan engagement, the rise of these decentralized platforms. It's all happening.
It's like they're building the framework for a whole new kind of media world.
Yeah.
One where creators have more power and fans have more control.
Exactly. And that's where things get really interesting because that level of disruption, well, comes with its own challenges and potential pitfalls.
Okay, so let's play devil's advocate for a minute. What kind of roadblocks could they run into?
Well, one of the biggest is going to be navigating all the regulations, especially around AI and digital content. Governments are still figuring out how to handle the ethical and legal side of these technologies. Veritas and Lumen's going to have to be really smart about making sure their platforms are playing by the rule.
Right. It's a fast-breathing target. They can't afford to fall behind.
Yeah.
What else?
Managing expectations is going to be crucial. The idea of a more democratized, creator-friendly media world, it's appealing, but the reality might be messier. There's always that risk of overpromising and under-delivering, especially in such a competitive industry.
So they need to find that balance between empowering creators and making sure their platforms can actually survive. A win-win for everyone.
Exactly. And they can't ignore the potential pushback from the big players, the traditional media companies. The rise of independent platforms and AI content, it could really shake up their power and their profits. The major labels, publishers, even the streaming giants, they might not be too happy about this shift.
It's a classic David and Goliath story. But it seems like Veritas and Lumen's taking a collaborative approach, right? They're not burning bridges, they're forming partnerships.
That's right. It seems like they get that they can't just tear down the whole system. They need to work within it, even while they're pushing for change. It's a tricky balancing act, but it could be the key to their success.
Okay, so we've talked about the challenges, but let's not forget about the incredible opportunities Veritas and Lumen is creating.
Absolutely. They're giving artists and creators tools and resources they've never had before. They're helping them reach bigger audiences, tell their own stories, build careers that last. They're creating a sense of community between creators and fans, and they're opening up new possibilities for innovation and creativity.
It's an amazing time to be involved in media, and Veritas and Lumen is right there leading the charge. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from this?
I think the biggest thing to remember is this. The media landscape is changing fast, and Veritas and Lumen is one of the companies driving that change. They're challenging the old ways, empowering creators, and creating new ways for us to experience content.
That's a powerful thought. It's not just about the tech or the business. It's about the impact all this is going to have on creators, on fans, on the future of media as a whole.
Right. And that leads to a question for our listeners. What role are you going to play in this new media world? Will you be a passive consumer, or will you help shape this new reality?
What a great question to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Veritas and Luman Media. We hope you found it insightful and thought-provoking.
It's been a pleasure exploring this with you. And remember, the conversation doesn't stop here. Keep asking questions, keep learning, and keep pushing those boundaries because the world of media is always evolving.